Well, good morning, good people. Mark Holmes here, and as always, I want to say thank you all for watching, commenting, subscribing, and being part of the Joe Boo Sports Report. Without you guys, as well as you ladies, you know that this literally does not work. I hope you all are having a great day. It's finally freaking Friday. It's funny because I've got to take my wife's car to get the oil change. She's got a bit of a road trip she's got to do this morning and things, and this is part of the good old honey-do list of things you have to do as a husband. It's kind of like I always say, you take out the trash, not because you want to take out the trash, because you want to take out the trash to keep the peace. And you know how that goes. But actually, this is a good way to put some feathers in the cap, because she was getting up to take the car. She's like, oh, how long does it take to get an oil change? And yada, yada, yada. And so I said, yeah, you can go get in line. So while she's getting up and dressed, I went ahead and I'm sneaking out, and I'm going to get it done. So this morning, this is where I go back to Dan Saleo. When we did the Dan Saleo show with Philly 500 a couple days ago on Wednesday. And low washer fluid. Good, they can top it off. And he had mentioned about Jerry Jones, because Jerry Jones was going to be stepping away at the end of this year. Now, we've heard Dan Saleo with all kinds of rumors and stuff that Deion was going to be the Dallas Cowboys head coach, and that Shedeur Sanders was going to be the quarterback, and that Dak Prescott was going to be out. We also heard him say he was going to come to training camp to meet me, and also to the Eagles-Cowboys game in Dallas. So take anything that Dan Saleo says with a grain of salt, because he don't know shit. That's right, Dan. I said you don't know shit. Be that as it may, there's a rumor going around that after the Pickens trade, that Jerry Jones was going to be stepping down as GM of the Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones, who is currently 82 years of age, you're starting to get up there. You look at, I think Mickey Loomis is the next oldest GM, and he's like 61. So, and most GMs are in their 40s. So you can look at that and say, yeah, Jerry is literally twice the age of most NFL GMs. Jerry Jones has been doing less and less of the daily operations of the Dallas Cowboys. And more of the Dallas Cowboys organization has been being distributed within their circle. One of the reasons I believe that Will McClay, who you have to think, especially after this draft class that we just picked up, should be a hot commodity to be a GM elsewhere. Why would Will McClay sign a 5-year contract to come back to the Cowboys to literally say, I'm not going to ever grow any more than what I'm doing right now, whereas I could go someplace else, maybe make more money, and be able to be the point man to build an organization as I want, unless there was more that was going to be given to him. That's what my thought would be, because originally, part of the reason why he stayed here, he said there was unfinished business with the Cowboys winning a Super Bowl and his kids going to school. Well, his kids have grown up and graduated now. So many things have happened in the time since we won a Super Bowl. I believe somebody said we've had 4 popes since the last time the Cowboys won the Super Bowl. So there's that. But I pointed out at the press conference in January of Brian Schottenheimer being introduced, that introduction wasn't only Brian Schottenheimer, because that was the first time that I had ever seen Stephen Jones listed as co-owner of the Dallas Cowboys. And I pointed to that moment because that press conference was extremely telling and a major sea change in how the Dallas Cowboys were doing business. Now, Jerry Jones will never step down completely. You saw Landman, where, he talks about working with his family every day. If Jerry Jones has to be wheeled in there on a wheelchair with oxygen, he will still be wheeled in there with oxygen and still being the GM, part of the operation. Will that be more name only? Probably will be. Because I think what you're seeing now is Jerry Jones still has input on the team. Jerry Jones is still the driving force and is going to always be there. But the thing I tell you is, and I've told you this for years, you may not like listening to Stephen Jones, but Stephen Jones does not bullshit you. Stephen Jones does not, gaslight you, so to speak, I guess is the term. He's going to tell you exactly what they're going to do, and that's what they're going to do. He is a man of his word. When he says we believe in our own guys, and we haven't heard that this offseason, and they've been going out and getting other guys, case in point. When Jerry Jones has said things like, that Johnny Manziel, and wanting to get him, yeah, okay. When Jerry Jones has said we're going all in, yeah, okay. They're going to let Jerry be Jerry. But the operation has truly changed. This offseason is about as close to all in as the Cowboys have done in forever. And dare I say, the Cowboys brand this offseason, after having the season that they had, having seen the Eagles bump up and win the Super Bowl, seeing the Commanders bump up and make it to the NFC Championship game, seeing the Lions making it, doing big things the last couple of years, seeing the buzz of all these coordinators that are out there and things, and literally the Cowboys, basically people saying, that's okay, I'm good. I think was the wake-up call for them to say, we are no longer relevant. And I like to point out, this is where I always feel like, and I haven't figured out what my next thing is, okay? A lot of times, when you have success, you get an attitude of, we're here. We're doing great. We're the best of the best. And you don't change anything. And the problem with that is others pass you by. They see what you're doing and they perfect it. They figure out how to do it for less. They've figured out how to do it a little bit better. And you're still stuck thinking that we're the greatest. We don't need to change. And that's where the Dallas Cowboys were after winning those 3 Super Bowls. We got the plan. We know what we're doing. We're going to keep doing what we've been doing. And year after year, the Cowboys believing that, you can't use free agency. Stephen Jones having the whole motto of, when you have to use free agency, it's because you screwed up in the draft. Yeah, this is true. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But you also have to look at it and say, you have to be able to compete with others that are better than you. And if you're not out there taking care of deficits one way or the other, then you won't ever be back up in there. And the Cowboys, you honestly can look at it. For 5 years, we kept getting high on our own supply by thinking that what we're doing is good enough and we don't need to change. We're not going to go out in free agency and spend money on that stuff. We're going to take our time with contracts and this, that, and the other. And it's hurt them, not their bottom line, because they're still the most valuable franchise in football, but it's hurt them as far as chances of winning Super Bowls. And so that's where you have to look at this and say, there's nothing wrong with changing how you're doing things. And if you want to continue to win and hopefully get back on the big stage, you must evolve or you will die. And the Cowboys, they were at a crossroads this offseason. Continue doing things the same old way, expecting a different result, and continuing the slide of going downhill, or taking a step back up and realizing we got to put in the work and reinvent ourselves. So Jerry Jones, nah, he ain't stepping down. He may do less, but he ain't stepping down. So there you have it. That's my 2 cents on Jerry Jones stepping away from the Cowboys. Bro, it wouldn't surprise me if Jerry Jones gets buried at midfield. I'm being serious on that.
Right,
how are you doing? Oil change.
All right, no problem. Can I have you open the hood for us, please?
You got it.
I just need to scan the vehicle real quick.
Okay, go ahead. All right.
Did you want to stay in the vehicle for the service?
Yeah, I can stay in because then I can do some work and drink my coffee. Yeah. So we're going to be drinking our coffee and doing our thing. Alrighty, good people. As always, I appreciate you guys, and keep the faith, because the Cowboys, they are actually trying to do and be relevant again. Okay.